The state Democrats reintroduced their own bill on maternal health care this week. They call it the Pregnancy Protection Act. It would put into state law that maternity and newborn care are essential health benefits and that insurance plans must cover them. The Democrats say this bill would be a small step to improve the racial disparities in maternal health care in the state. Joining us in studio now is Senator Kelda. Thanks for the time here again this week, Senator.
Good to be with you again.
So first off, I wanted to ask you about the Pregnancy Protection Act. You helped work on this bill. What is it that you are proposing here with this bill?
We want to make sure that regardless of what kind of insurance policy you have, if you become pregnant, that your maternity and postnatal care is covered under insurance.
And it was for certain sorts of health insurance, in particular, that you really want to focus in on to make sure that this is covered.
That's right. So depending on what kind of insurance you have or who your employer is, your pregnancy may or may not be covered. And your postnatal care, it may or may not be covered. So we want to basically fill in those gaps and make sure that even if you have a short-term disability policy or a sort of non-comprehensive health insurance plan, that you'll be covered.
You mentioned some gaps. What are some of the things you heard or saw that maybe inspired this potential legislation?
Well, the United States has the worst maternal and infant mortality in the developed world. And in fact, it's actually more dangerous today for a woman to have a baby than it was for her mother 30 years ago. We also in Wisconsin have shameful racial disparities in terms of maternal health and infant mortality. And one of the reasons why is because people don't have good prenatal and postnatal care.
Well, that bill came out a couple days after some bills from your Republican colleagues in the Senate and also from the legislature that were talking about abortion. One of those bills would define what abortion is, and it would basically set up what would be medical exceptions, more or less. What is your reaction to this bill coming out at this time, considering the landscape about abortion in the state legislature?
It's disappointing to see my Republican colleagues continue to ignore the majority of Wisconsinites who say that they want abortion to be safe and legal. They don't want it to continue to be criminalized. And instead of addressing that or trying to expand access to birth control or maternal health care, they're pushing more dishonest and dangerous bills to try to make it harder and more confusing for doctors to provide abortion care to people.
Now, their argument is this would make it clearer for doctors under certain conditions, which they lay out very specifically as to what would not necessarily be enforceable under the abortion ban, but you don't really see it that way? That's not how you're reading this?
No, these are just simply more attempts to enshrine the rights of embryos and fetuses and put them above the rights of women in Wisconsin law. So there's a bill that deals with fetal personhood. There's another bill that attempts to say only these circumstances can be treated with abortion. And by the way, we're not going to call it abortion. So it's an attempt to muddy the water and to distract from the dangerous anti-choice agenda that the Republicans have been pushing for decades.
Another one of the bills had to do with potentially giving a tax exemption, claiming as a dependent an unborn child. The argument is this is just about trying to get more money to families. Do you see any way that this could be used in another way by defining who and what is actually covered as a child in the state of Wisconsin?
Yes, this is a long-standing strategy of the anti-choice movement to establish fetal personhood in the law. And that will not just attack the right to abortion care and forcing pregnancy on women even in the most dangerous circumstances, but will also be used to attack and criminalize contraception and fertility treatment like IVF. So this is a very, very dangerous precedent that this sets. And this is not new. We have seen bills like this in the past, both in Wisconsin and nationwide. But in a post-Dobbs world where anything is sort of on the table, I think we're going to see even more of these dangerous bills.
These bills just kind of the latest attempt, if you will, to somehow maybe adjust the current abortion ban or the current laws related to abortion here in the state. Are you willing to do anything short of full repeal at this moment while this is playing out in the courts?
We believe that abortion should be safe and legal. We don't want to criminalize doctors, and we don't want to put people in situations where their health, their lives, or their futures could be in jeopardy just because of politics. Politicians should not be making these decisions, period. The people of Wisconsin want that criminal abortion ban off the books. We don't want to live in an 1849 world, and that's what I'm fighting for, and that's what my Democratic colleagues are fighting for.
So you want full repeal, and at that point, if it's not that, you don't necessarily want to talk about it at this moment? That's
exactly right. As long as doctors are under threat of felony and women in this state can't get abortion care from providers in state, we're not willing to negotiate under those conditions. Absolutely not.
Senator Kelda, I want to thank you so much for the time here again this week.
Good to be with you.